Hey guys, Gerry from the DeFi Alpha Gaming Guild here today. Just a quick video on the Prism Protocol for Terra Luna. It's about to launch this week, and depending on when you listen to this, it might already be up and running in terms of the token launch. But we're going to go through the specifics of a little bit how the protocol works and how you can actually get in on purchasing the token and staking it to get some returns. So Prism Protocol, it's quite complex. So I'll do my best to explain it, but if we have a quick look at their website here and the frequently asked questions, it's basically this concept here that you really need to get your head around. So basically the idea is that you can get a yield-bearing token such as Luna that provides staking rewards, and you can split it into its two components, the principal token and the yield token. Now, why would you want to do that? Basically, it's going to open up a whole world of possibilities for DeFi composability and different ways to earn yield off both sides of the token. So if you're really bullish on the principal, the price of Luna, and you're not too worried about collecting staking rewards and the yield and airdrops it can generate, you might want to sell your yield to buy more price exposure. So that's just one example of something that you might want to do. You might be just bullish on both sides and want to harness each side for different aspects to generate additional yield on top of what you can normally get. So as this example shows here, you would come along with your Luna, deposit it into Prism. It gives you C Luna back, and from the C Luna you can then mint 1 P Luna and 1 Y Luna. And then you can use each token for different things. So again, if you just wanted to get more P Luna, you could sell all the Y Luna that you create for more P Luna, which is just going to give you some extra upside price potential for the Luna token. And it also means you can't get liquidated because you're not actually taking any leverage here. You're just splitting your token into two and selling basically a portion of it. With the P Luna token, you could also become an LP and get extra incentives and fees and rewards on top of having complete price exposure to P Luna. Potentially there could be some impermanent loss here, as there is with any LP position, so keep that in mind. You might also over time be able to use the P Luna as collateral in other protocols to further borrow against it. So you might be able to put this into the Mars protocol once it launches and lever up a bit more and buy even more P Luna. So if you really wanted to have a lot of price exposure to Luna, you could deposit 100 Luna, split it into P and Y, sell all the Y Luna token, and you might get maybe an extra 10 Lunas worth. So you might then have 110 P Luna. Could possibly deposit that into Mars, borrow against it, and then maybe buy another 50 P Luna. And then you've got 160 P Luna tokens when you started the day with just 100. So that's a quick example. It is pretty complex. It's a bit of a brain bender trying to get your head around what all this stuff is. And this is honestly just the tip of the iceberg with what's going to grow around this protocol. So there's another example of what you can do with each side. So I'll let you look up the white paper and dig a bit deeper if you like. Possibly look up DYOR. He does some really good YouTube videos and tutorials. Definitely worth a follow. So on the Prism protocol itself and the Prism token and why you might want to hold it, I'm just going to play a quick excerpt out of this Prism launch question and answer. Just goes for 1 minute, and then I'll break it down.
So I guess in summary, you have 4 different ways. 10% of the yield of Y assets that are staked, 100% of the yield of Y assets that aren't staked, 0.1% of any swap that occurs on Prism Swap, and 0.3% of any order that's successfully executed. Those are the things that go to XPrism. And as XPrism is also a liquid token, like a UST, rather than a illiquid staked token, you can then also use XPrism in the liquidity pool I mentioned earlier. So you could be a liquidity provider in the Prism XPrism pool. And people have seen examples of this with, say, Luna, the Luna X pool at the moment. And you could also potentially lend out Prism tokens or XPrism tokens, or use XPrism as collateral, like we've seen with LunarX in Mirror Protocol, etc. And because it's a liquid token, that means it can go cross-chain, it can be used in other protocols, and all the time it's still accruing rewards because it's a compounding token.
Okay, so quite a bit to unpack there. So straight out of the gate, this token, Prism, is going to have 4 different ways to accrue value and generate some yield for its holders. So one thing that Prism is going to do is actually be its own automated market maker. So it's going to have its own liquidity pools between at least these sets of tokens here. So it's going to get 0.1% of all the swap fees, convert those fees into Prism token, and then deposit it into the staking contract, converting it to Prism. So Prism's always going to increase in value because of that mechanism. Within their automated market makers, so their decentralized exchange, they're going to have limit orders as well. And if a limit order is triggered, they'll collect 0.3% of the fees. Now, there's not much in the way of limit orders available currently on Terra, so I can see them being very, very popular, especially for people who want to trade in and out between the different types of tokens. So the Y and the P Luna tokens, they're going to be freely tradable on the market, and the market's going to determine their prices. And even at any given point in time, one could be sort of overvalued or undervalued compared to the other. So that could create an arbitrage opportunity, because if say Luna's $100 and P Luna's trading at $90 and Y Luna is trading at $20, you could just come in and mint some C Luna and then refract it into these two, P Luna and Y, sell the P Luna for 90, sell the Y Luna for 20, and you've just turned $100 into $110. So there's going to be arbitrage opportunities all through this all the time. And particular traders might be setting limit orders to say, like, when Y Luna hits, 20 cents or 30 cents, buy it or sell it, and then they can execute their arbitrage opportunities. So that's going to be very interesting. There could definitely be an arb here between Luna and C Luna. So that's very similar to the arb that has existed in the past between Luna and B Luna, and B Luna is the staked Luna that goes into the Anchor protocol. C Luna is the staked Luna that goes into the Prism protocol before it gets split into P and Y. So a lot of lingo, a lot to get your head around, but straight away there's 2 ways to accrue value just from the automated market maker. Now, the other really cool thing is when you've got your Y Luna token and it's earning its yield, so it's earning its proof of stake rewards, because when you deposit your Luna into Prism, in the back end, they go and stake it against a validator, a proof of stake validator, in the same sort of fashion that the Anchor protocol does. So this is going to be earning proof of stake rewards the whole time. Now, 10% of the rewards for the Y Luna that is staked into the Prism protocol goes to the Prism treasury in the form of Prism. So they capture some value and it's always returning to the treasury, which basically helps underpin the value of the Prism token. Now, the Y Luna that's not staked within Prism, 100% of that yield that's generated from proof of stake rewards and potential airdrops goes into the Prism contract. So, and the reason that happens is this Y Luna is probably going to end up all over the place. It'll end up in different decentralized exchanges. It'll be collateral for borrowing and lending. It could be, across the IBC networks and put into, say, Osmosis and other DEX on the Cosmos exchange, or via the Wormhole bridge into Solana, or potentially the Gravity bridge once that's up, and back out into different applications on Ethereum potentially. So the Y Luna token that's not actually staked in the Prism protocol, all of that yield that's captured would be returned to the Prism protocol. So that's could generate quite a lot of yield for this token over time. And so, yeah, there's 4 value accrual mechanisms straight away for this token, which is pretty astounding, really. So I can see this being incredibly popular as you get more assets flowing back into Terra from Cosmos, from Solana, when you want to split your principal and your yield. So Atom, for instance, its proof of stake rewards are 14%. So it offers quite a high yield. People might want to harness that yield. And basically, by selling, say, Y Atom, you're pretty much forfeiting your staking rewards by selling that off and then, buying some other asset. So, if you're really bullish on Luna, but not so bullish on Atom long-term because it's got a lot of inflation with its proof of stake rewards, you can kind of steal that inflation from Atom and pump it back into Luna. So that's going to be very interesting. So now onto the actual launch of the token itself and how you can go about getting some. It's also pretty complex. There's quite a few different things going on. So basically, Prism Forge, this starts very soon. It's probably already be running by the time this video gets out, but it's quite straightforward. It's kind of similar to the Astroport lock drop, but there's no locking mechanism. Basically, the idea is you've got 4 days to deposit UST, and after the 5th day, the price of Prism is determined, and then you'll know how much Prism you actually get. So here's a graphic that represents it. You can deposit UST any stage in these first 4 days, but the price is unknown because this is not tradable. Nobody else has this token yet. So on the 4th day, people can withdraw their UST. Now, the reason they might want to withdraw the UST is they might think that people have put too much UST in here and has made the price of the token too high than they're willing to actually pay for it, or they just might need that liquidity. And they've got some anti-whale mechanisms built into that to make it a bit fairer, so a whale can't come and pump the price up and then pull a heap of US dollars out and crash the price and get a nice big bag for a cheap price, which has happened in similar token launches in the past. I think that happened with the Mango Markets launch on Solana. So that's stage 1, or phase 1, Prism Forge. And phase 2 is pretty straightforward. It's basically, all it means is on, shortly after phase 1 ends, maybe a day or so in between, there will be the Prism UST pool. So basically the token just goes live. It's almost like an initial DEX offering at this point, and the token becomes fully tradable. But when you consider that everyone who wanted to get the token had to come and market buy it with UST, I don't think there's going to be much price action of, at least the token shouldn't dump on the first day, unless there's some mad rush for liquidity in case the whole market's sort of nuking or something like that. That's probably the only scenario I'd see a big crash. Generally, when something launches, even in this fair launch mechanism, as we saw sort of similar with White Whale, the price actually did sort of have a nice little spike on the first day as it became, more tradable and people were more aware of it. But generally speaking, the people that already own the Prism token are probably going to have a long-term focus. But, you never know with crypto. Phase 3, this is where the fun really begins. So in between phase 2 and phase 3, you can see there's a few days here between the estimate of when it's going to happen. They're going to have a testnet. So a testnet period where people can come and connect and practice splitting their Luna into Y Luna and P Luna, just so they get familiar with how it all works. Now, they're really just saying that they're doing that so us as users get a chance to sort of try before you buy and feel confident with the platform before they launch. And I guess if any bugs come up, potentially it could delay things or give them time to fix them. So once that testnet's done, they said maybe 24 hours of testnet, then the action really begins and you can start staking your Luna, and then we're going to have true price discovery on Y Luna and P Luna. There's lots of opinion around how this will trade. In theory, 1 Y Luna and 1 P Luna should, more or less always equal the cost of 1 full Luna token. But there'll be arbs happening all day long between those 3 tokens. One thing you can do though, and just to help, add incentives and get people to start to participate and use the protocol, is you can deposit your Y Luna and stake it and start receiving X Prism tokens in return. One thing that they're doing is it's not like locked up for particularly long, so they're trying to make it a gradual issuance of the tokens so that you don't have any nasty spikes down the track. So if I deposited my Luna for 1 day, I'd receive a day's worth of Prism rewards, and after 30 days, I'd be able to access those tokens that I earned on that first day. And it vests linearly day after day, and you can withdraw your collateral at any point. So I think that's really nice. Because the token will be tradable, you're going to have real-time APYs and yield to observe. So if it's really popular, the yield's going to come down. If people start pulling liquidity out, then it might entice other people to jump back in and start farming the token again. So that's quite cool. And then the last phase is, I think, when it fully goes tradable. So actually, I think I just described the farm as phase 3. So it looks like there's actually a few days between when you can start farm the token, which is interesting. I thought that was the other way around. So my mistake. It looks like, yeah, this is to be able to start refracting, and this is to be able to start farming with your refracted Y Luna. So yeah, you're going to have, that's actually good because you're going to have 4 or 5 days between this date and this date to get your price discovery on these two, which it's going to be probably really volatile the first few days as people try and work out what this is worth versus that. So just something to keep in mind. That's kind of it. We can just quickly touch on the tokenomics. I think that's in here. Yeah. So 20% of the token is going to be held by the treasury. 7% is in that initial 5-day period where people can buy. The Luna farming event lasts for a full year, and another 13% gets issued. And that's when you farm the Prism token using your yield portion of your Luna. And then, as you can see here, this is how it vests to everybody else. So there's a community fund and liquidity incentives here. So that basically is just to incentivize usage to the community. I'm not sure exactly how long that'll last. That might last quite a while. I've already got 13% here for farming, but they might incentivize the LP positions, that sort of thing. And then you've got the core team and strategic partners. Now, 40% sort of reasonably high for sort of insider tokens, I guess, but they're being pretty good about it because they can't start to dump any of them on the market until after 6 months, and it comes out linearly, so slowly, day by day, block by block, they'll get more and more of the token rather than bam, they just get their full allocation on, day 181 or something and can dump on the market. So, but given this is going to be generating yield from day one, I'd say there's a good chance a lot of these guys will be just start staking their token, which, so that's going to be very interesting once we hit that sort of 6 to 7 month period to see how the price starts to fare. If it starts to get dragged down by these guys dumping, if it doesn't, then that's really bullish because they're probably thinking long term and actually just happy to take the yield. So the last thing I wanted to touch on, the Galactic Punks DAO. So the popular NFT project on Terra is one of the first ones to drop. They've got their own DAO now, their own treasury funds, and they even run their own node securing the Luna network. So they reached an agreement with Prism, a partnership, and the Galactic Punks DAO is going to be purchasing $60,000 worth of the Prism token in phase 1. And because of that, part of the partnership means that their validator set will basically be shortlisted to be part of the delegation for Prism. So Prism's going to get the Luna tokens, and in the background, when they stake them, they're going to stake some to the Galactic DAO, and looks like they're going to earn potentially up to $500,000 a year in revenue. So that's pretty good investment by the Galactic Punks DAO. $60,000 upfront investment, and they're looking at getting $500,000 a year in ongoing cash flow returns through their validator. So that's a good partnership. So yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to touch on today, guys. I know it's a really complex one, but the launch is just about to happen. So I really wanted to raise it onto people's radar, especially the value accrual mechanisms. I think this token's got some legs, and it's going to be really interesting to see how much volume this captures and all the new primitives that come out of Prism. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.